I just am getting frustrated because it's been 2 days of like trying to make things work. But anyway, so I'm calling on here to say, I've been asking myself, what was the, like, really, I've been asking myself, how am I going to contribute to the progression of all of us, like the liberation, the freedom, the living in non-shame? Like, how do I play a part in that? Because for so long, like, that's just something that I value. Or before trends, before like a kind of guilt or shame on surrounding like feeling the need to do so, it is just something that I just feel I need to do. And so for so long, for years, I deleted my social media like a month ago and kind of like did the whole platform thing. I wanted to start over is what I'm saying. But the platforms that I had before deleting, I had them for like 10 years. And I spent a lot of my time discussing, kind of like I have been doing on this channel, about just the ways when I feel like we are holding ourselves back, the way that the government, the social structure is holding us back. And I think those things are important. I also feel like so many people are talking about the same thing. We're in an age of so much knowledge. And so when I'm talking about the things that I'm talking about, it's like now it feels like it's just because that's who I am. And I feel like it's a constant thing that I'm seeing, and I feel the need to talk about it. And I think that I want my channel just to be like proof that I was here, and that, proof that there are people that cared. And I guess you see that so much, right? Like I'm saying, is that there's so many people talking about the same thing and all that, but I don't find myself always going to be talking about these things, but as you can tell, all of my videos have kind of been surrounding these type of topics. And so when I talk about them, I talk about them. When I don't, I don't. But I'm moving out of this feeling like I need everyone to hear me, and more so just standing on what I believe in, and those that get it, and those that kind of see me, they see me. That's just where I'm at right now. But, there's so many ways that I feel like I could advocate and I can play a role in, like, without social media, right? But there's something deep in me that just always feels like this is really such an effective way. And I also feel like there's so much noise, sometimes on social media, whether that is like bad things and like, the other side, or even like people who intentions are for liberation. But I feel like sometimes we are now an age of so much knowledge, and I feel like there's a group of people that it feels as if the intention isn't just to be like people who are going through experiences and like understand that and don't need like big words and scholarly mindsets and talking in this way. Like I feel like a lot of us are we want to be the next activists. We want to be the James Baldwins, and we want to be the like Nikki Giovanni's. We want to be, and I think that a part of that's okay, right? But when you start to forget the purpose of what you're doing, and it becomes kind of like shaming people who haven't read like some book that you feel like is important, and that's fine, but there's so many ways that you can do that instead of like there's literally a video out there of a girl saying, like, if you haven't read this book, like, I'm not taking anything you say serious. I'm not taking, your how you see liberation or how you see oppression serious if you haven't read this book. And, I'm not here to police how people say things, but again, to me, this is like the type of energy that I'm seeing with so many intellectuals, so many advocates, so many activists, to where it's like we are just like stuck in this like pattern of just kind of relearning the same things and feeling like we need to tell the world about those same things. And I feel like some things are important to reiterate or whatever, but I think that what we need is actual action right now. Like, I think we've done so much of learning and, until the point to where it's like those that want actual freedom and liberation, they have all that they need, and they're going to do that if they want to. Those that still have seen all of the truth and aren't deciding to play a role in the progression of us all, that's just what it is, regardless if they're doing that on purpose, regardless if, other things are playing a role in why they just aren't willing to let go of things. There's just many reasons. And so for me, it's like, how can I play a real role outside of just what I've been doing for the past 5 years of talking about things that I feel like people do get, especially now. So much knowledge being out there. And I think that knowledge, of course, is the beginning of action. That is something that I believe. But then I think that we have done that, and not only just our generation, but generations before us. And so if the knowledge isn't surrounding, how can we create actual community with not depending on the government for food, water, shelter, etc. How can we continue to learn about ourselves on a psychological level, which plays a part in how we build community, how we see each other, how we treat each other and ourselves. To me, if it's not about those things, it's kind of we can continue to reiterate things that we know, yes, Black people are treated terribly, we know that. White supremacy has not only been within the country, but all over the world, and that looks different in so many different ways. We understand how, and again, these things are so important. But for me, what I'm saying really is that where I'm at is I just want to continue to stand on everything that I have said and what I have learned. I want to continue to hold myself accountable for the way that I may be upholding this social structure and these ideologies. I want to make sure that I'm surrounding myself with people who don't necessarily have to have my same way of thinking, but just understands that people dying and being shamed for things that just they shouldn't be shamed and be killed for is not okay. And there has to be this real emotion behind what we are doing, or it's just not going to hit the same. It's just not going to hit the same. And what I mean by that too is when you have that real emotion, that's when you are playing out things in your real life. That's when you are holding yourself accountable and other people. That's when you are trying to find ways to build actual community. And so, again, my YouTube, I'm seeing it as just a place to be I was here. When I'm long and gone, maybe that's if social media is still even a thing and YouTube's still a thing, right? But I want it just to be because I want the gay boys too and the gay Black boys to know that you can be not only yourself, but you can stand up for yourself, and you can be in that strength, and you don't only have to be what they have painted you out to be as the gay Black boy, you don't have to just be that. You can be who you are. You can be cringe. You can be smart. You can care about, people who don't just look like you. You can dance and dress and just have you can just have these, you can be whatever it is that you naturally are. And I think that's another thing that I place so much value on, is that I want to imagine, I want to think, and I want to move, and I want to say and feel, and all of these things. I want to do all of those things without observing those through a social lens. I feel that is what true expression is, human expression is. And so I also want those after me to know that a lot of this is rooted in shame and who you are naturally, you should not be afraid of and you should not run away from. I genuinely believe that once we rid ourselves from shame, this is when not only progression comes in the sense of freedom and allowing us to be ourselves without that shame, But then we're in mindsets where we're actually creating a world at its fullest potential that it can be, you know? I think when we're not in those very fearful and shameful mindsets, we can come up with results and like answers to things. And that's in so many different ways. And so this is why my YouTube hasn't been like put together, and I haven't been like trying to like have people subscribe or anything, because I think the way though that I do feel like I'm playing a part in it is like, not like I want to show up on my Instagram, my TikTok, my Twitter, standing in what I believe in, you know. And I said before, like doing all that in real life and real timing, which both of those things I think matters. I just don't think that my purpose is to get on here and reiterate the same thing that we've been iterating. Like, I feel the urge to actually like go outside and show the world in real time what it means to show up as yourself. I feel the urge to learn by the mouths of people and seeing their experience in real time and helping them actually build a sustaining community. I want to be in the actual fight of changing government ideologies, because I think that at the end of the day, yes, we can create community, but when there's still that dark cloud over us that is the government, you know, it's so easy for like all of that to just be destroyed because of these people. And so I think that's still important. And of course, you do need certain terminology. You do need to understand the way the government works and how it has worked and how they say the loud things quietly. And so that's just where I'm at right now in my life. Like, you know, like, and this isn't me saying that these people haven't played such a major role in why we are where we are now, where there are so many people who have learned so many things and that have now been like emboldened to be a part of the movement, right? But I think that all of us, regardless, it's like now is the time to actually be living that, to be living what we know is true liberation. To be living what we know, to like what we need to hold people accountable and hold ourselves accountable. We can't get so caught up in just like the social media of it all and kind of like being the messengers, and then like especially when I feel like it is again just the same thing that we're saying, just in different ways with different books, different stories, etc. So it's like we now have to be the ones to really put all of that into like real life. And so that's what I want to do. But, you know, I say all those things and then I feel the urge to talk about these things because I do know the importance and I do know the effect, is the word that I really want to use, that social media has on us. I do know not only that, but like media in general, in the sense of there's been many of us, me included, that I obviously experienced oppression in my life and you know, mental health issues and all of these things, but it was like Maya Angelou. It was, you know what's crazy? I just recently have really dived into James Baldwin, and I literally have the same type of ideologies, a lot of the things of what he's saying, and I'm like, wow, that's crazy. But anyways, because really, again, like a lot of these ideologies and things, there's always like a foundation of it, which is just like no one wants to be living in shame, and no one wants to be like murdered for being who they just can't help who they are to be, and just, you know, many other things. But like, yeah, if it wasn't for these people though, to where there was like actual like Martin Luther King documentation and videos of people standing up, when you can feel like even in this time, even though like obviously back then it was worse in the sense of it was like straight in your face, you know, you still, you know, you feel the pressure, you feel the fear, you feel like you don't know how to stand up for yourself. And you see these people doing it in these times that were really crazy. and they're like standing on what they say. And they're saying it in such a way to where it's like, you have to hear them. And so it has most definitely not only inspired me, but inspired so many people around the world, hearing those lost files and those lost, of people standing in what they believe in and what they value. And so I think that that's why I always find myself, even if it may not make sense all the time, right? Even if it's not in a scholarly way or whatever, I feel like if you allow yourself to hear my intention and hear the foundation of what I'm saying, you are able to understand what I was doing here and to understand why I was doing it and to understand that I'm doing it with like an actual passion, right? Which is strange that I'm about to go into a whole tearing, crying thing, which that's okay. I just wasn't expecting it. So that was, yeah, but I think it's like, I can only speak for myself, but I think it's like when your soul it understands, and this is also why I feel like you don't need really the big words, and you don't always need to know like the depths of things in order just to know when you're like in an oppressive state. I feel like God has gifted us all with these, God has gifted us all with awareness, right? And I think that is true knowledge. And anyone, if you're a child or anyone, you can sense danger. You know when you're in danger. You know when something isn't right. You know these things. And so when I'm saying though, I feel like I find myself tearing up in random times, but when I think about those times, it's like either I'm seeing something or I'm expressing something in my soul and my body is like, it's nudging me and like being like, no, that is that thing that, we want, that is it. And I feel like a lot of people feel that way, and we do that in so many different ways, creating, yelling, either making love or just, having sex, and like, because your soul is, and for all of our souls have been so imprisoned. And so when we feel those moments of expression, wherever that is, and whether if it's in the best way or, the healthiest or whatever, it's like our souls are like reminding us like, this is where we should be. And so how I feel about expression, it's like, again, allowing myself to be without thinking in a social lens. And that's imagining, that's thinking, that's talking, that's feeling, that's moving, that's dressing. It is standing up and feeling empowered and being in that mindset and state, even when faced with those that don't want me in that. Even in face of those that are afraid of that make them uncomfortable or whatever. My body, I feel like my soul has been wanting and been craving true connection. And that's something that I've never experienced, but I think that I'm getting closer to experiencing it. And I don't think that true connection can happen with not only, you have to be exactly who you are, but also the person that you're trying to connect with also has to be not afraid of who they are. Because if it's not that, then you guys it's like fake. It's fake, it's surface level, it's things that you think that person wants, or it just, the connection isn't real. And so, yeah. And so, I feel that way. I want to do that, but I also always feel the urge to create. And I think because, at a really young age, these were one of the few things that I saw where people were doing, it just evokes emotion out of me. in a time where I didn't really feel anything because I was afraid to feel anything. And so those moments have really, as a young child, inspired me to be like, wow, there is more. And I feel like so many people say that, and I think it's again because all of our souls are like, and since the beginning of time, music and visuals and dancing and moving, these have always been ways to where we have learned to be able to express ourselves when like we didn't know how to, even to, a lot of these things were happening before even language was a thing. And so humans have always needed that. And I've always craved that on a soul level. And so I think that, I'm no longer shaming myself too for also wanting to like enjoy and express in those ways. I think for some part, I felt like I had to be the like activist and advocate that was just by the book and like very stern, which I just believe is not how any of us are. And that may have been just something that I was internalizing and believing, because really the older that I am and I'm looking back on these amazing Black activists and poets and intellectuals and etc., they were human and they weren't always uptight. They just had to be in those moments, which makes sense. But they were goofy and they danced and they were sexual and they were, they were human. Okay, I'm getting my heater fixed, so I didn't want to like be in his way or like being annoying, right? So, but just to end, basically what I was saying was just, like I feel like all of these people, they were just, people. And I think that for many reasons, whether, that's being internalized or whatever, in the state that I feel like a lot of people go in when they feel like, they're spreading knowledge or whatever, that they have to be this thing or do it in a certain way, that's kind of what I was talking about in my video before, of like not allowing ourselves to be in like a hierarchical mindset surrounding knowledge, when we understand that those things do come from like white supremacy and kind of, or just like any hierarchical society that is basically trying to keep knowledge from certain people, which then in order to like place value in a certain group of people. And so I don't want to internalize that, and I see that a lot happening around us. Again, whoever you are, you can be a part of like that liberation. You can be part of discussing what oppression is, because you have eyes and you have experiences. And also, to tie up everything, you can contribute to the progression, to liberation in more ways than one. And so again, like not feeling shame if that just isn't doing it in a very professional way, doing it in whatever way makes sense to you, that feels right, and you understand. Like, it's really about like when you understand though that your intentions are to be like somewhat helpful, or just then you'll end up doing it regardless of how you think you should be doing it. Yeah, that's also what I was saying. Kind of what the real purpose even was, which is basically just saying that those that, are taking action outside of spreading knowledge, which that is great. I would love to be a part of that in like real time, in real life. So if you do see it, hit me up and let me know, because I would love to. It's going to happen regardless, right? But I feel like there's so many people who don't only just have more knowledge than me, but more experience, and that are really having the willpower and making things happen. So I want to be a part of that in the ways that I can. It's most definitely time to be building these things. It's a time in like history where we're like, okay, the people who were actually not only just talking about what's happening and exposing that, but I want to be that generation that's like in the history books, that's kind of like, oh, like, okay, and then they did this and they created this cool like like even like Black Wall Street, or like those type of like things. Like I want to be a part of that now.